Sin was a
Hey folks, if everybody can just make sure, double check, we got over 340 people. So just double check and make sure you're muted, please.
I think you had it muted.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's all the way up.
Hopefully you can hear us on the Zoom. I know that it has been difficult to hear these meetings. Our apologies.
How do I send this to anything that can be louder?
Mute yourself. Mute yourself. Mute yourself on the Zoom, please. So this is going to be very challenging.
So, hang on a second.
Our first presentation and our only presentation tonight is update from the school reopening from our superintendent.
Move it back.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I'm going to turn it right over to Assistant Superintendent Jenks to give us an update on the facilities to begin with and the HVAC studies.
Good evening. Tonight I feel I'm coming with a great deal more information. And I know at the last meeting, it was extremely stressful for quite a few people hearing the information. And that was the challenge in a sense. Actually, at the last meeting, there wasn't enough information to be sure of what our options, what I would recommend as our options. If we remember last week, we had just that day, later in the day, received an engineering report and didn't have enough time to go through the report to be sure, did it say there were huge problems or was everything workable or somewhere in between? And so I had made that recommendation to consider when we should open, depending on what we would need. Now I have a great deal more information, which I'll share shortly, but perhaps we could tackle this in alphabetical order in terms of the buses, then the HVAC and the technology, because they're not necessarily interrelated, but there is some connection. If we remember, there was a couple parent surveys, one in the late spring, and then there was a follow-up in the summer, which was really a commitment survey to all our families. Because of the limited room space in classrooms, with that 6-foot distancing, and on buses, the 23 passenger maximum because of the state distancing requirements, we needed commitments from our families. Are you coming in? Are you coming in and riding the bus? Are you coming in but getting dropped off? Are you doing all remote? And we needed that information in great detail. We couldn't really do a lot of estimating because there were such limited numbers of seats in classrooms, 8 to 14 in an individual classroom, and the bus capacity. And so there was a follow-up survey, and that survey ended, I believe, on Sunday, the 23rd. We still had some 500 responses that were needed before we could begin scheduling. And I know one of the concerns we're still hearing, and I understand this from a parent perspective, is I just found out my son and daughter's teachers today, I didn't even have class list, teachers were waiting. It takes a while once you get that information. So though there was follow-up calls from every school to those families, and it wasn't until Thursday, August 27th, that we had the total information for the bus rosters. Now, I want to put that in perspective. I think it's about 14 days ago. And normally there's a 5.5-week process to do our bus routes. And it's actually simplified because you have about 60 students on the bus. And you can use the same routes pretty consistently as a base. Because we can only do 23, it's really put us in a challenging position. If I felt the bus company was not working to their maximum capacity, or they were not committed to this, or they were doing it poorly, I would say so, but that's not the case. The practical reality is, early in that process, the superintendent and I said to the bus company, get the elementary students in. That's our priority. If you have to say you can't get all the routes done, but you can get some of the routes done, we said do the elementaries first. They're the students who have not, in a sense, had connections with those teachers before going remote. They can guarantee that we'll have the elementary routes by the end of the day tomorrow or early Saturday. We can get them posted on the website, and that would allow us at least to start off at the elementary schools, meaning Baker, Emmy Small, and Station Ave, on the 16th, as everyone originally intended. The other 3 buildings would start remote, and on the 21st, be able to do face-to-face as well. And again, I don't want to make excuses because none are needed for the bus company. If they were failing, I'd be calling them out on it. They're not in this case. The information, because of the limited number of seats on the buses, means scheduling is different this year than it might have been in the past. And so that's the bus update. That's the status of, we can transport the students right away to the elementaries and start on the 16th. We really can't get the student bus routes settled for the other 3 buildings until the end of that week. We'll get them posted over the weekend, and on the 21st, bus routes will be ready for the for Wixon, Mattakees, and high school. In terms of HVAC, the initial study. To put all this in context, the district has always had an HVAC consultant company, if you will, subcontractor, not consultants, working for us, E&E. They for years have been the people who verify that our facilities HVAC is working, gets repaired, gets fixed as needed. They make recommendations for capital. They were part of, as we all know, recent multiple capital years improvement requests. So we've done many of the pieces that people began to call for this time this summer. Throughout the state, the Teachers Association called on school districts to do special studies to address the HVAC issues in the schools. The DESE supported people looking at doing those. They didn't require it. It wasn't mandated. We, like other schools, at first were a little concerned with what does that look like? And sometime, I believe in late July, the commissioner's office released a set of, here's about a dozen approved vendors for this kind of work from this. If you are going to do it, you could work with those vendors. For 24 hours from when that list was posted, we had reached out to Perkins Eastman, who was listed as one of the approved state list vendors, and said we needed the study to prep. We wanted to work and come up with a study that teachers were requesting. And so that process started. But I know many people were like, well, why did you start it in August? How come you didn't do it last spring? Those things weren't required. And we internally maintained a system that tracked how the events are working, are they not working. You saw the initial result, and I say initial because there's 2 phases to this, the consulting engineering services studies of each building. They're in the binders. I believe you all have copies. There's a certain amount of boilerplate in each one, but at the end of the day, the critical fact is if you look at classrooms for a building, and this determined that our systems, no matter how old they were, actually had the capacity to do what was needed for approved HVAC work. And while I know I'm taking a bit of time to work through this, I want to set the staging for it. Because the initial concern was, well, if the system's so old, even if it's working perfectly, it can't deliver the air that's required. We would have had to make one set of recommendations to the district because we couldn't meet the contemporary requirements. The study confirms our systems are all capable of producing what's needed in the classrooms in terms of air circulation, the air exchange, and the volume. In each section, you'll see calculations for each building and school, how many students, and you can see the math and how that works out. If it requires 365 and our systems are putting 425, then we know that piece is done. We're capable. There's a few areas that aren't, but they're often large areas based on 800 or 900 people in them. And if you think of it, no one's putting anybody like any numbers like that in some gym, a gym somewhere and so on. So if you work through those calculations, there were also a set of recommendations about what are the kinds of things you should do short term that make your system better. And I think as many of you noticed, you right down below the calculations, clean and sanitize your system and change the filters. That happened this summer over the last 3 weeks. All the uni vents, the heating units that blow the air into the room, the ventilation, the heating, they were cleaned. They blew out some of the top pieces. They were sanitized. New MERV 8 filters were put in, which is the best filter we can put in there. And that's what's recommended, you noticed in that study. That's already been done. That was a matter of course. Now, where does E&E enter? They are our district subcontractor for HVAC. They maintain our system. They ensure the proper operation. You know, it was recently this morning, so confirm to me. The systems are working, correct? They said, yes, the systems are working. There's individual uni vents that still needed to be turned back on after people had turned them off or after inspections. But in a sense, all the rooms that are being used have already been serviced once by our own team, going in, cleaning, along with some E&E people, putting in the new filters, putting in the pieces that might be needed. The dampers needed adjusting. Yesterday, DYEA reps, myself, and usually some building representatives, including administrators, walked through and physically looked at every instructional space with a uni vent and you know, did the physical test. Okay, you can feel the air blowing out of it. What's the return feel like? We also did some things like are there windows that need to be repaired and so on. There were some units that were fine. There were other units we questioned the volume, or a couple, in several cases, they weren't operating. So this morning, and I've already forwarded the results to the president of the DYEA, E&E walked through with one of our personnel, Steve Fauscher, and they assessed each system. In the vast majority of cases, they had either been a power outage, so the system was, the uni vent was put back on and now it's blowing maximum air, or something along those lines. So every unit that's been identified as still needing any kind of adjustment is being addressed. They'll actually work through the weekend to ensure that that's all available. And they walked through, I believe, the 3 elementaries and addressed all the identified concerns today in the uni vents as well as Wixon. And so the rooms now, in a sense, all the uni vents, we had the initial study about the capacity. They've had new filters, they've been serviced, they've been addressed. People have done the physical test. Any identified deficiency is being addressed. And so I feel we're in a different position now, able to accurately and honestly say, all the indications are the systems are working the way they need to work, they're delivering the volume of air they need to deliver. Adding the last layer, and I talked about the initial study, there's a person from that was recommended through the Consulting Engineering Services in Perkins Eastman, Labco, and they're actually going to individual rooms with special devices they assemble, and it takes a while to say, okay, assess the actual airflow volume. Even though we say it's working, our facilities people are confident it's working, and you can feel the air blowing, measure that space. You know, we'll get the results. We'll have the first set of results tomorrow. We had initial results. The first room they went into at Emmy Small was 100% outside air circulation coming flying into the room. Well, not flying, but coming into the room. And so I do feel I can say, based on the information available, It is safe for us to return, for students and staff to enter those buildings and to use those spaces. If there are any individual rooms without windows and there's a union event issue, we will relocate those spaces that they were picked by administrators for classes, because that's one of those areas. I feel if you have a union event, you have windows, and you can open the windows and you feel the union event blowing, yes, you might still be going, oh, are they going to check the individual air flow in that room? That's still being slated to continue, but I don't think that really needs to be done before we say the classroom is ready. It's blowing the air, it's blowing, it's been confirmed, it's ready to operate. And so I feel comfortable saying we're in that position where people can re-enter those buildings. The work's continuing this weekend. The assessments will continue. They'll continue for the next several weeks. The individual person going through, and I guess it's sort of like the second or third check of a room going, yes, here's the actual air circulation you're getting. And I will predict in most cases it's exactly what you would expect to get, because you have a system that can produce it. You maintain the equipment and it's working at the rate to produce that. And so I know I, again, caused great stress last week, but I felt it was that balance of never wanting to surprise people. Certainly wouldn't want to appear tonight with a very different message for the first time tonight. And so the undue angst that created with folks, especially in the community, I understand that, but I feel now I can make a recommendation. If I had children in the schools, I'd be comfortable having them go in. I have a relative who's attending the schools, and I feel absolutely comfortable saying it's safe for that person to go in. And I think we're in a position where the district has taken appropriate due diligence steps to say the system has been monitored, it's been addressed, it's been studied, it's being serviced, and it's being tested. And so those pieces all coming together with that information, it's a reasonable choice to say, yes, we are indeed safe and people can return. So I thank you for allowing me to kind of go on for quite some time, but I wanted to be thorough a little bit in the background of what we did, why we do it, some of the remediation steps listed in the report that we're already on and we're doing. And I can't say enough before stopping about Sandy Cash and facilities, because sometimes it's hard to hear the facilities person always say to you, we need to do this, we need to do this. We live as a committee approaching in towns. But because of the energy management plan and the E&E work and the contract we have with them, all this background work and maintenance of our system has always taken place. And that's why we can also be confident when we're doing these studies that, yeah, we're seeing working, but they've been maintained properly. Parts of the system every year get totally preventative maintenance total check. It's sort of that equivalent of your car, 50,000 mile check. So that work has really made a difference for us to be able to say here with confidence, we're in that place. And I know not everyone will feel that way, but based on the information I have available, I don't see any reason to assume somehow something's not safe. And I guess I would make the recommendation that we do return.
So, Madam Chair, if I could add on to that. One of the things that we did, we were trying to do proactively also last week, was to certainly get in contact with the Department of Ed, because as you know, we are under some requirements to open school by the 16th. And so in speaking with the commissioner, he sent us to his operations person, Anne Marie Stronach. And in conversation that Ken and I had with her via phone, she indicated to us that in order to be in good position with the CDC and what they require, you have to look at the whole picture of all of what you're doing. So she kind of asked us a series of questions. She said, you know, it's really the strategy that's involved is about reducing risk. So she said, are you giving parents like a little checklist to say, check your child before they come to school, make sure you're sending them to school well and keeping them home if they're sick. We've put together something, some parents may have already received that today in their email. Are you masking? Yes, we are. Are you maintaining at least 3 foot of physical distancing? And I reported to her that we were maintaining 6 feet of physical distancing. And she said, you're above what CDC is requiring. Are you cohorting, which means that we're trying to keep kids in little, we call them pods, because we are dolphins after all, and trying to keep kids in smaller groups that work together, but don't go outside that group to other groups very often. So that if someone were to come down with a case of the virus, it would be very easy for us to track it and to see who they'd been in contact with. Are you doing rigorous cleaning, and are you encouraging hygiene, hand sanitizer, hand washing while kids are in school? Yes, we are. And so she said, well, the last thing then is your ventilation. And it doesn't mean that your ventilation system even needs to be perfect, but are you checking it, which we are? And if you find something wrong, what kind of mitigation strategies can you implement? And she suggested that some of the quick fixes were things like open the windows. If you find that you have something that needs to be fixed, you have a motor or something you need to fix in that room, she would recommend opening the windows. Or in some cases, you may want to use some of those box fans. But very important to remember that the box fan can't be blowing in at the children. It has to be blowing out. And we want to make sure that that happens. Or maybe an air purifier, which I think we reported to you that we had some on order. We have some already presently available. So if we were to find a spot that we felt needed something, we would be able to do that. So taking what we've already done and then looking at this in totality with all of the guidelines from CDC, that also gives us extra confidence in what we're able to recommend. Ms. Jinks, did you want to say more about the technology?
And finally, a quick technology update. The tech department is working to get all of those iPads ready for the younger grades. I think earlier we reported, and if we didn't, it was probably a timeline issue. 12th graders at the high school, because of some of their coursework, they received new iPads as part of the program for this year to make sure it wasn't limiting to the coursework some of them had. But the main focus on technology for, say, the last 3 weeks has really been 700 some odd iPads, getting them ready with the correct apps for the PK to 3 students. So hedging our bets, the ideal is these we return face to face, and then the teachers can work through with the young people how to use your iPad. What are the appropriate apps? Here's how to do that. And then if we were for some reason to have to go remote at some point in time, at least all our students, including our youngest students, would have that device available. And so that progress is being made. We're hoping that that will be finished by the end of next week. And we might not have them for immediate first couple of days, but they'll get to those elementary students really quickly. And just to envision 700 iPads, you may wonder, it's not simply you have an auto program that can download the app to each device. By the time you take it apart, put it together, casing it, if you will. Imagine when you buy your first iPad at home, no matter how fast you do it, you take it apart, you work through some stuff, you do some loading, you do that piece, you put it in the case, and that's 45, 50 minutes sometimes, up to an hour. And then they have devices, just so in case you're wondering, you hook in about 24 iPads at a time to a master system, and it loads them up. But that's 1 or 2 sets of apps, and then you replace it. So the tech department, that has become their entire focus. If you were to walk through some of the schools, you see a few desktops here and there that we said the priority is getting the iPads first, get those ready for the younger students, and then we'll catch up with some of the other pieces. So that, and again, those iPads were purchased with some of those federal grant monies about what are you buying because of COVID. That's some instructional. So that's the tech update. Things coming along.
So I would say that basically what we're recommending is that we open our K-3 schools on the 16th for in-person learning for those parents who've selected it. We thank our bus company for pivoting with us and making sure that they could get those kids to school, the ones who chose to ride buses. We feel comfortable with that, and we also feel comfortable that then things would be really ready to go on the 21st if we did remote learning for just 3 days with our students who are in 4th grade through 12th grade, which we also know, well, I've talked to a lot of parents in the last few days. I thank them for their emails and allowing me to chat with them by phone. I didn't get to everybody, and I like to really talk with people in person or on the phone as opposed to trying to answer everybody in an email. But, you know, as many people as you talk to, there are different thoughts and ideas about what needs to happen. But we believe that we will be ready on Wednesday the 16th for our youngest students to arrive. And we do believe that we will be ready for our older students to arrive on the 21st. And so that would be our recommendation to the committee, but we're open to any questions that you have and happy to try to answer.
I just want to say thank you, Mr. Jenks and Mrs. Woodbury and everybody on staff for the work that you put in, not just, I mean, obviously since March, but the last couple of weeks and working on these HVAC issues this past week and touring every building in every space and getting the engineers in and everyone coming together to make this happen. There is definitely been a lot of concern floating around in the community about this and why we are where we are, but I think your presentation addressed that, and I'm sure everyone has questions. So, Phil.
I noted your reference to the because of the energy maintenance plan in use over time. And I remember when Jim Dyke and I were on the very first facilities maintenance committee, and Tony Parentazzi was superintendent, and Skip Fennell was the fiscal guy. They put in a program. We hired a consultant to start monitoring our energy use and discovering where the flaws were. We had to really fight for that program because it was an additional expense that didn't seem like we really needed to use it, wasn't educational. But the reality was, as we started to renovate on our own, with our own maintenance plans, we were able to keep all eyes on the status of what we were using and where the gaps were. And you just confirmed that that paid off based on the fact that we were able to look through all of our facilities. And obviously we have some buildings that don't qualify for FRISH. But I'm pleased to hear how it worked out. And not that I'm going to be waiting for the movie to come out on these, but I'm going to at least find evidence of what we did a long time ago. Thanks.
Thank you. Right.
Thank you very much, Jen. Thank you, Ken and Carol. So I do have some questions and comments. So instead of getting all the information to the bus company on August 23rd so that they could set up the routes for far less students on a bus than normal, we were several days late getting them that information, is what I heard. And you and I spoke about this, so that's accurate information. So that's very frustrating for me in many ways, because I wasn't here last week and I saw the storm of innuendos and the blaming the HVAC. The HVAC's not the problem. And even then, I think most of us in this room knew that the HVAC wasn't the problem. So because we didn't get information to the bus company that wasn't given to us in a timely manner, we can't start next Wednesday. And I am really frustrated with that. And my frustration is that in some ways it's our fault, because I don't want to say coddled, but we should have just sent it to them and said, these are the people that are allowed to ride the bus. And those 500 families that chose not to respond in a timely manner, well, guess what? You're gonna have to wait until we find room for you on the bus. So I'm the type of guy that likes to look for the rosy picture in all this. If we choose to start our elementary students next Wednesday, that will give those families a very smooth opening to the beginning of the school year. It'll give them Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then, as opposed to in most years, we have over 3,000 students coming into our district all at once. And every year is a problem, no matter what, because the bus drivers are new, and the kids are new. I thought my bus was at 8:10 and it was on this street and it's not. So the rosy picture is the elementary kids are getting a smooth opportunity. But I don't want this district blamed because we can't start. You know, we probably should have sent that information in and said, guess what? You were late, you don't get to go on the bus. I'm sorry. But at the same time, we try to, you know, over-service our families, and that's on us. And I guess that's the price we pay. So I just wanted to make that very clear. That the reason we're not opening is not because of air quality, it's not because our systems aren't adequate, it's because the bus routes aren't ready. I would expect that between now and next Monday or Tuesday, if those bus routes are ready, that we open the school. And I really mean that. Like, if all of a sudden Monday morning you find out we can send Manikes or we can send Wixon, then let's do it. Go ahead, I can see you want to jump in, Ken.
No, absolutely, because we haven't, right, we said that, don't stop working, and again, it wasn't the bus company's intent to stop working on scheduling furiously once they were done with the elementary. We all realized, even if it came down on Friday, if we could say we can get them in a day earlier, everybody would be ecstatic, right? It would be much better to come and say, hey, we can start earlier than starting later, because everybody, I think, can make adjustments that way much easier.
So let's get them in if we can, but
yes,
I understand that. What was the cost of the study for the HVAC?
approximately $54,000. And all I will say is, in a way, if I could go to the rosy side of the picture, feeling since we go every year to the community saying we need HVAC system upgrades and replacement, at least this study may serve in the end as a dual purpose piece of, here's the study of exactly what we have now. So we talk about some kind of replacement, we don't spend that money then, but yes. And
So $52,000 for a PR stunt is the way I look at it. That was driven down to us from God knows where. But let's use it to our benefit and see what we can do with it. Staffing. I'm concerned about staffing in our buildings. If you know, our staff doesn't feel comfortable showing up, I think we, as a district, we have to have an all hands on deck approach. If you're an assistant or you're a coach or you're a position that is not necessarily in a classroom, but you show up to our district every day for work, get ready to go to work, because we might need you someplace else. And I think that's a directive that we need as a school committee to push down. The last thing, well, maybe not the last thing, I want to address some of the emails that we have received. Me personally, probably over 25. And the vast majority of those emails, I'm going to guess 23 out of the 25, are upset with the information that has been drilled out, and because they thought we weren't opening in many ways. So I think tonight's meeting clarifies a lot of that. 23 out of those 25 want their students back in class. Some of those parents are teachers in our district who felt more comfortable sending us an email from their private email that they want to be in school. They were concerned about the HVAC. They wanted to know what we were doing all summer long. You know, I get that. I thought this one was kind of funny. They wanted to know why they paid us, but guess what? None of the 5 or 6 that are up here, that are school committee, get paid 1 penny. Some were very frustrated with some other situations, and I think we all saw those emails, but I just think it's important that we recognize those emails. Also, for me personally, I contacted at least 12 teachers and employees within the district. And I did a random survey, and 3, after they found out I was calling other teachers, called me. To their person, each and every one of them wants to be in school. So that's really good. That's all I have, but at this point, I guess Monday's better than 3 weeks from now, but at the same time, I think the sooner we get the bus routes, let's open the kids up and let's get them into the buildings. Thank you very much.
Kenny Carl, thank you so much for this. Is once you think you've seen it all, again, something new pops up. I also wanted to thank all the parents that did send those emails. I tried to respond to every one of them, and I did have some phone conversations with a few parents and tried to tell them that an email or a phone call is so much better than just Facebook messages back and forth and social media. I really wanted to respond to those parents that sent emails, so I tried to respond to all of them. We've had some good dialogue back and forth. So any of the parents out there, email us and tell us your concerns and tell us what you think. And, we'll give it to you straight, or we'll put you along to another person or an administrator or something that's gonna tell you exactly, what you need to hear, whether or not it's like it or not, it's gonna be back. So thank you for all the parents that did send emails out. I think that was great. It gave us a good perspective on the student and what the students and the parents want from the district. We talked about, you talked a little about Sandy Cash and the facilities. We have some incredible educators in this district. They're here. They want to teach their kids. They want to come. They want to come to school. Even the ones that are scared to come back, they still want to come into school. Teachers and educators are, I guess, funny characters. I know a bunch of them, and they thrive on educating students, and that's what they love. They do what they love, and they do it well. So, the educators and the teachers in this district are great. Along with, we talked a lot about this summer about Rudy Green. The food service is doing an incredible job, just dedicated. The same thing holds true with Sandy Cash. Having to go through this and do this huge report, and filter through this huge report, everything that she's done. She's been a real great watchdog for this district as far as making sure everything is in place, making sure we have the proper licenses and credentials for other projects that we're doing, making sure that she'll stand up and tell us out straight whether or not something's going to work or something's not. And I think that's super important to have somebody in our corner like that. So, I put Sandy and a bunch of the other people that aren't educators up there with the dedication to the district. So I'd like to just thank them. A couple questions I thought of is after reading this report, talking a little bit with Ken, is it safe for our students to come back to school? I say 100% yes. After this came through, we look at the CDC guidelines, and we're exceeding some of those guidelines, and we're making sure that we meet them. We're making sure that they're implemented. The teachers have been back doing, professional days, trying to prepare for all this. And I'm sure that they're overwhelmed with things, but I'm sure that they feel like hopefully that they're prepared for it. So is it safe for the kids to go back to school? I feel 100% yes there. Parents and students need to realize also, we've been saying this since March, this is a fluid situation. If we get, 30 cases here and there, or, the football team gets it or somebody, we may have to adjust. Down the line, we might have to say, well, we got to go to remote just because of the precautions. So, as much as I want to go back to school, and I think it's safe for us to do so, it might change. It might change for the worse. We don't know. But history and science and reports have it that returning is a safe thing. One of my thoughts about coming back on the 21st for grades 4 through 12 is, geez, I think your idea of if a school, the bus routes are ready for, Wixton or Matakes before then, let's get it back. It shouldn't have to be anything decision of the school committee. Let's just do it. Just say, you're gonna go. And I know that can be frustrating for some parents because they have to plan, and I understand that. It's 3 days. One of the questions I had is, Wednesday at the high school, isn't Wednesday a virtual day anyways? So the 16th already is a day that no students at the high school are at school. So we're only talking Thursday and Friday for high school. So, from what I've seen, the lineup at the high school, bringing students in and students driving to school, that's a good chunk of the population at the high school for 2 days. So if we have to deal with 2 days, so be it. I think that's a fair thing. Again, there was a lot to do. We didn't get the results back as quickly as we hoped to get it back. We got them to the bus company as quickly as we could. They're working, I'm sure, fervently on it. And as soon as they can get it to us, we're not the only school district that uses this company. There's other school districts that use this company, so they have to piece together a lot of these different ones. So I guess if that's what it is, that's what it has to be. But I want to make sure that the school bus company, is confident that on Monday morning the school buses are going to roll up for grades, 4 through 12. I think that's an important thing. And the worst thing I want to have is to have to contact parents and say, well, Jesus, or K through 12. Yes. And say, hey, Jesus, we need another week. That's going to really put a wrench in the parent situation. And I don't, as a parent, it's actually not having any kids in the district anymore, but if I was in that situation, I wouldn't be happy with it. So we need to make sure that on the 21st, those school buses pick up kids. And we all know every year, the first 3-4 days of school, buses are this way, sideways, blah, blah, blah. And that's gonna probably happen again. I don't know for sure, but this is a very different situation. So we just ask for the patience of the parents in the first couple weeks of school until everything gets totally ironed out. We're ready to go.
Thanks, Frank.
Guys, I know this kind of sounds over and over again, but I think you guys did an amazing job, and I can't imagine the pressure you're under, because I know it's got to be significant, because nobody's ever done this before. You're basically writing the playbook. If it ever has to be done again, and you're doing it on the fly. And every school is different, has different needs, different sizes, different ages, different kids. So all those things are difficult to do, and there's a lot of pressure on you. You get the benefit of coming to us and asking us to make a decision, but all the work has to be done by you two, and not just you two, but your staff. And I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I know it's been difficult, but hopefully the worst is behind us. I hope. I think most of the committee probably already knows where I am on this. I find it a little bit peculiar that the bus company can get us all the buses 5 days later as opposed to 5 days sooner. They have about 134 hours to get it done. We'll start school on the 16th. Maybe not, maybe 133 now. But in my opinion, they need to use all those hours. Whether or not they sleep, that is not my concern. But school needs to start on the 16th. All the kids need to be back in school like we originally planned. And that's how I intend to take any vote that we do in the future. There's no reason for the bus company to not be able to get this done. It's always the bus company, right? They always have an excuse for something. It doesn't even matter who the bus companies are. It's First Student or 5-Star or whatever. The way I look at it is they're a private contractor that we hire to do a job. If they can't do the job, then we need to find somebody to replace them. I know they just bought a building over on Huntington Ave. It'd be a shame if they had to sell it, but that's not my problem. That's their problem. So school needs to start on Wednesday the 16th, just like we planned. They can figure it out. Half the schools on the Cape aren't using buses. Barnstable in particular is the biggest vendor they have, biggest account they have. They use 5-Star, so they have plenty of extra buses. They name funny things because Barnstable has different names on the side, but they have we should have plenty of extra drivers as well. So they need to put the lead to the paper, pencil, whatever you gotta do, get it figured out, because as far as I'm concerned, school needs to start on the 16th, and they can do it. They just want a little extra time. No more extra time. They've had since April to get extra time. So, excuse me if I'm not sympathetic to their problems, but we are paying them to do a job. As far as the safety, the kids go, I'm glad to hear about the AC, HVAC. I tend to agree with Brian that this was a publicity stunt. Unfortunately, these stunts have eroded some of the goodwill, maybe, of some of the committee members, myself included. I hope in the future we don't have instances like this. If there's a legitimate concern, I think we need to bring it forward, but just following the ill advice of the folks up on Beacon Hill that have an office across from our state house, it's not necessarily the best choice of action for the people here on Cape Cod. So those of you know what I'm talking about, just take that to heart. Thank you.
So,
I just wanted to add my appreciation for the time it took for the number of people who emailed or sent me letters. It is worthy of response. Right now, I am overwhelmed by the amount of material I have to respond to, and I don't even have answers. But I do want to respect the strength of the concern that our community, our education community, our parent community, the business community has for what we're all going through. Families are worried not just about the schools, they're worried about funds and health. So they need to be treated with respect all the time. Thanks.
I'll add on to that just by saying that obviously I've had a flood of emails this week, as the other committee members have, from parents expressing concern both ways on these issues. And between, you know, reading these materials and prepping for meetings and conference calls and those, you know, and my day job and my second day job and my family, I have not been able to reply to all those emails. And it doesn't mean they haven't been read and they're not taken into consideration. But I also want to remind parents that there are things that are within the school committee's purview and there are things that are not. And, you know, we obviously are voted on a remote plan, we vote on the calendar, we vote on policy and curriculum and other things. But, you know, we're not your, just, and maybe others will disagree with me, but, you know, if you have a problem with your student in their school right now, you should be going, or what's happening with your child learning for this fall. You should be addressing the principal, the assistant principal of your child's school, your child's guidance counselor. If you're not getting results there, please of course contact Ken and Carol. If you're not getting a response there, please of course contact us. We want to know what's going on and we'll do our best to help. But we're not your first line of defense for these things. And we also are not privy to private information about students and private information about staff, and we shouldn't be. So I appreciate the emails and I read them and I am taking them into consideration when I vote on these matters. So thank you for those. So that being said, I don't believe that we need a vote on anything tonight because we're not changing the calendar. And we already approved the remote learning plan. You know, which day you start remote and which day you start in person, unless Carol, you disagree with me, I believe that's an internal decision. You know, I think you've heard our feedback that, you know, we all want everybody in school that wants to be in school as soon as possible. It's unfortunate that the bus company feels they can't be ready, but, you know, I spoke to everyone earlier this week and I'm very glad to see that pre-K to 3 can be into the schools. There was going to be a challenge getting them iPads. We don't have to deal with that now. They will get their iPads, but it won't, you know, they won't, there's problem getting them out before they start. Remote learning would not be a great way to start if you're pre-K or K or any of those, or K to 3. So I want my son's 3, and I want him in his building, but I understand that, you know, with the bus company, especially with a kid can be a little bit disastrous those first few days with freeze. So they can get everybody in K-3 the first 3 days, and we start everybody else remotely that day. It's not ideal, it's not what we wanted, but it's a compromise at this point to get everybody in safely. And report, I think there's a lot of misinformation floating around out there on the internet about the status of our systems and whether you can maintain them or not. You know, this was not a report, and we weren't asking for, and we did not get a laundry list of problems with our systems. What we got was a report that we have systems and they do what they're supposed to do. And I know that our office, your office, Ken, has copies of all the work orders, of all the work that has been done with these HVAC systems over the years. So are they old systems and we'd like to replace them with new systems, new buildings, of course, but they do what they're supposed to do right now. So one more comment from Brian Sullivan and then Carol and Ken.
So if we're not gonna vote, that's fine. I mean, I understand, but there's 350 people, and what's gonna happen. So if we could just lay that out so everybody knows, and because maybe they're not 100% satisfied, but at least they'll have an answer, and most of the upset emails I keep getting will cease.
But I mean, even if we're not voting to change, we could vote in support of the administration's decision. So Carol, what do you feel on that?
I think it would be helpful to have your support. We feel that, I guess, not trying to defend the bus company, but I have to be honest with you. Probably 2 or 3 days ago, Ken and I were on the phone with them, and typically this is the way sort of the bus company schedules things. You know, they do the high school tier first because those are the first buses to go out in the morning. And so then after that tier gets scheduled, they, based on where those buses have gone, et cetera, they send them back out to do the middle tier, which is our Wixon and Mattakees run. And then finally, they schedule the elementary runs. But as the information was coming to us about what was going on with the study, we felt very strongly that if we weren't sure how far along we'd be with the study to be able to decide that everyone could come in on Wednesday in person. So we decided to prioritize the youngest students. So therefore, we asked the bus company to stop what they were doing and to do something different. And that's on us. That can't be on them. When they were working through it, they were making progress, and it's not that they can't go back to it, but we asked them to stop. And so I just, you know, when, as Ken said earlier, there are lots of times when we have to hold people accountable that we work with, and we do. But this time I would be remiss not to say that we asked for this change. And so therefore some of the extra time is really based on what we asked for. And again, it goes to my personal feeling, and I think Ken's too, that our youngest students do best in person. And some of our families, of course, have chosen for their own students to have them remote, but that's a parental choice. That's not the school district making the choice for them. And yet in my phone calls, interestingly enough, in talking with some parents who have middle school kids, or maybe even early high school kids, feel like, oh, you know, I kind of disagree with that thought, Mrs. Woodbury. I really think the older kids need to be in because, you know, it's a little different there too. So I think what the bottom line is I think we really all believe that our children do best when they are in school, in person. But when you have to make some choices, you have to, that's what you have to do. You have to make some choices, and they're not always popular. But we would recommend, as I said in the beginning, that we start in person with our pre-K to 3 students. Remember, our pre-K program is a hybrid program anyway also, but we would like to get them going, and that our students in grades 4 through 12 would definitely start in person on the 21st, but certainly would start school on the 16th in their remote, as the high school would have anyway, as Mr. Tierney pointed out. So that's what we would recommend, and we would like your support.
Let's see if I can get this in. I recommend that the committee approved a in-person learning starting on September 16th for grades pre-K through 3, which includes Ezra Baker, Station Avenue, and Emily Small, and that the remaining 4 through 12 grades report remote for the 16th, 17th, and 18th, and that the entire district goes to either remote or on hybrid or in school on the 21st.
That's a motion on the second.
That is a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Brian Sullivan.
So I don't want to be not supportive of you guys, because I am very supportive of everything you've done, but I can't in good conscience give the bus company a minute more of time. I don't care what the excuses are. This has been going on since probably I was in school, and I'm not going to vote for it, but I don't want you to take it the wrong way. I definitely do support you, and I understand what's going on, but I think they can also put in some extra time to get it done. So that's
Right, thanks. Just take a roll call vote on that, please. Phil Morris,
Phil Morris votes yes.
Brian Sullivan,
no.
Yes.
Terry, Joe Tierney,
Yes.
Joe Glenn. Are you on the Zoom?
I get to speak now? No.
Okay, and I vote yes, so the motion carries.
It's your brother.
Maybe one quick point,
Yes,
if that's okay, and it brings up a conversation that I had with the high school and the MIAA's launching of athletics, and it coincides with what we just did in some ways. If the high school ever goes fully remote, then athletics needs school committee approval for attendance reasons to be able to participate in sports. So either we can discuss that tonight or have Mary or Paul jump in or have it on a future agenda, but I think it's something we should get ahead of so that if we ever are forced to go remote, we've already had the vote taken and they don't sit on the sidelines. But maybe if there's
yeah, I
any.
think we should add that to an agenda.
Perfectly fine, but from what I understand, the hybrid model is acceptable where they don't need school committee approval, but if it's full remote, then the school committee has to approve it. So.
Understood, thank you.
Jen?
Joe.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to put it on the next school committee meeting because there's, you hear all the stuff out there about, the soccer team in this town, 6 of them contracted, and the football team, 8 of them contracted. So, that's a discussion we're gonna have to have. If there's a reason why we have to go remote, then, it's just a discussion.
All right, so we're gonna have a brief public comment period, 15 minutes. We'll have 3 minutes for each speaker. If you'd like to speak, you raise your hand either on the Zoom or in person, and you will be called on, and you will have 3 minutes. This is not question and answer, as I said before. So let's get started. Carl, behind you, please. Come on up to this microphone and press the.
Hi, so first I want to thank you for all of your work. I'm also an educator in the district. So the first thing I just want to address is that in the public announcement with the Zoom information, it stated that the public would not be allowed to attend the meeting tonight. So I don't know if that was done by accident or what the deal is, but there's only a few of us from the public in attendance tonight. The second thing I just want to make a comment about, I am one of those parents who emailed you. I am in a frantic panic about what to do with my children come next week. I have concerns like is there going to be daycare? Who their teachers are going to be? What is the bus schedule? My husband and I are both teachers. We have our schedules, but we need to figure out what to do with our children. We do not have family on the Cape, and we do not feel comfortable relying on friends who are also in a panic. So I just want to express my frustration around that. The last thing I would just like to clarify, and I don't know if you can answer this right now, is there's a lot of rumors going around the HVAC request, if it came from the teachers union or if it came from the state. And if there were different levels of the inspections and exactly where it's coming from, because it's just flying all over social media that the union requested it, that it came from the state. So if at some point you guys could clarify that, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
She needs to introduce herself.
Oh, sorry, what was your name?
I'm sorry, it just,
For the record?
Kelly Houston.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Carol, you want to take the first on the Zoom?
I'm sorry,
The first Zoom hand?
I didn't hear what you said.
Public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Trying to do too many things at once. Someone named Jennifer.
Hi. I'm Jennifer Berger, and my daughter is going to Station Ave Elementary. I'm happy to hear that they will be there on the 16th. That's great. My biggest questions, I know it's not a question and answer, but my concerns are going to be just with the lack of time. What is my daughter's teachers' names? What are the supply lists? Just communication between the schools. I know you guys have been super busy, but as a parent, it's just a lot that we would like to know just to prepare, especially my daughter's a kindergartner. I'm always had her with me. So like getting to have maybe a virtual tour of the building. I know that she's never been there. She's trying to say hi. She would, just like to get comfortable. And those are my biggest concerns. But again, thank you very much for letting us know we're safe and healthy and able to go on the 16th. All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Aaron Porter.
Hi, I'm Erin Porter. I'm a teacher at the Station Avenue Elementary School. I had the opportunity to go with Mr. Jenks and Mr. Foucher on all of the building walkthroughs. We did nearly 9,000 steps yesterday, walking through all of the buildings and checking out all of the heating and heating units, windows, and just overall general safety issues within the buildings. I want to actually agree with the members on the school committee that all of us want our students to come back into school. Teaching kids live in the schools is absolutely what's best for students, and it is certainly what we all want for our children. But we want to do that in a safe manner. And we know that there are risks that are inherent in everything that we do, and there will continue to be risks, but we need to mitigate those risks to the best of our ability. So with that, I think calling a request for the HVAC as a publicity stunt is actually a little bit inappropriate, because the walkthroughs did actually show quite a few issues. The HVAC reports that came through reported what our systems should be capable of doing. It did not report what they are currently doing. That is the second phase that's being completed at this time. And hopefully we will have that information in our hands sooner rather than later, so we know that those rooms are really safe. But I just want to share one building there's many buildings that we have, but I'm only going to share one for a time. In one elementary school, we found that in rooms 109, 110, 111, 112, 114, 116, 117, 118, 119, the cafeteria, room 130 and room 131 did not have working univents. When they were able to go back in today and take a look at them, they were able to reset the controls and make sure that they were all working. Room 130 still needs a blower motor, so that's not currently working, nor is 206. Those blower motors are on order and hopefully will be addressed before Monday. Room 203 had issues, and it has since been repaired. There were a number of other rooms where we had concerns about the level of the airflow coming and going, and some of those dampers have been readjusted and they're functional. But we still have places where things need to be done. Now, had we not insisted that we have those walkthroughs and take a look at this system, that's a very large number of rooms that potentially could have been unsafe for students and staff. So I appreciate Mr. Jenks and Mrs. Woodbury's following through with the report. And I appreciate the ongoing work. And there's going to be significantly more work that needs to be done to make sure that all of those buildings are safe and up to its full capacity that we now know from the report we have the ability to do. Now we need to make sure that we actually really are doing it so the rooms are safe. So I appreciate your time, and I just wanted to clarify that, and I want to make sure we're all on the same page about keeping all of our students and staff safe. Thank you.
Hello, this is Vita Morris. I wonder if I would be able to speak at some point.
We're going down in order of the hands raised. Carol, who's next?
I believe it was, I lost the person. Michelle Conover, please.
There we go. Thank you. You guys are doing a great job. I appreciate the communication. I just did want to go on record in public comment again, like the bus company, like every year we have issues. We switch companies. We've done a lot of investment. They always promise that they're going to be ahead of the game. And, you know, like Brian Sullivan was saying, you know, these few days, I just find it hard to believe that it couldn't make, you know, that they make a big difference. It's just frustrating when year after year after year, when push comes to shove, it always comes down to the bus company. With the challenges around starting school. So I do hope they can deliver this time on their updated projections, because it has been a challenge for parents. My second comment is just related to Matikes. If they find that the ventilation isn't good in the nurses area, in the office area, will that COVID and nursing room be relocated to somewhere, or will that air quality be mitigated in those specific areas where potential sick students or staff may be?
Michelle, is that the end of your comments?
Oh yeah, that was the end of my question. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, Carol, please.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Hi, thank you. You know, quickly, I want to get a record. So I'm a parent and I'm not a teacher, and I continue.
Mr. Fitzgerald, we're having a little trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yep.
So I'm a parent. I'm not a teacher. I keep seeing kind of like weird comments about parents not being involved. You know, I'm unhappy. I don't think anything's going to be done at this point, but I want to say it out loud. You know, I've said it out loud before, and I will again. And I'll also continue to volunteer for task forces, site councils, whatever anybody could. You know, I, in addition, would love my children to be back at school, but it's just about an experience of being safe. I felt like throughout this process, we've just continued to kind of cherry pick easier questions, ignore harder ones. I really appreciated Thursday how there was some pause that maybe we shouldn't barrel ahead. I appreciated the foresight in that. And you know, I don't agree that there wasn't, that all of a sudden all the issues that were there before could all of a sudden be addressed now at this point. But my overarching point is that I think that this process has failed. I mean, it's been closed off, and at parts of it, I've been behind the wall, and I still don't feel like I have a strong understanding of what's going on. I don't know how anyone can categorize this as not being behind. No iPads, no class assignments, no bus info, little communication. I'm really unhappy. And, you know, we keep talking about in this meeting that people need to be holding people accountable and whatever else. And I just want to say outside, I don't think, this may be unpopular, but I don't think anyone's done an amazing job here. I don't think that anybody's done anything terrible. I don't think anybody's done anything negligent, but an amazing job has not been done here. I don't understand how we could even begin to say that we're prepared for Wednesday. I don't think that going to school is necessarily unsafe at this moment where we are community public health wise, but nothing about this process has me engaged in thinking that I should have complete faith in the management at an upper level. I've had great experiences with my teachers and my principals that I've dealt with. Going past that, I'm not happy. And I don't understand how anybody here on a school committee or a superintendent level could say that they really think that we're gonna have school on Wednesday and there's not gonna be any issues, even if it is just grades 1 through 3. And there's always issues, and that kind of stuff is gonna happen, but it is gonna be so much more. And I'm a little emotional. And again, you know, I think everybody's a great person. I'm not personally attacking everybody. I just think that this process has failed, and I'm really unhappy. So that's it. Thank you.
Ms. Philman?
Nope.
Take a break from my neighborhood. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to say thank you, Zane, for sharing that. I completely agree with what you've said. There's a few things I want to touch on. The first is, and this seems minor, but it's important right now in the state that we're in. It's very difficult to hear the school committee and everybody in these meetings. And I would love to see, you know, a tech person set up a better system so that us at home could hear you guys better and respond better. The other thing I want to say, and a couple people have said, is the lack of communication that I feel like I've received as a parent. I'm not a teacher, I'm a parent with 2 children in the district, is really disappointing. I don't feel like I'm kept in the loop with what's going on at the administration level. It'd be really fabulous to get emails about these school committee meetings. I think more parents would attend if it was communicated that we have an option to speak and be in touch with you guys more, besides being on Facebook. And I don't feel like I've gotten a lot of information. I don't know, we should it's a week before school start, and I have no clue what my children's day looks like. That sucks for me and for them. The other thing is, each thing, I can't even comment on that. I have, it's been confusing, all of this. The is people need to be held responsible. The bus has had time. This is a joke. Every year, this year, it should have been done way ahead of this time. They've had time. Last quick comment. One of the committee members said something of, along the lines of all hands on deck with teachers. I just want to say that I support every individual teacher's choice. If they feel only comfortable working in the classroom that they're in, I think they should not be moved around the district, the school, if they are not comfortable with that. That's all.
Ms. Ryan?
Hi, thank you very much for all you guys are doing. My only concern, again, same as before, is the remote learning that the older kids will be doing. We won't have all the kids going back on the 16th. So I'm just wondering if, again, these teachers at Wixon and Mattakese, are they ready to remote learn fully for a week, maybe more? What's that going to look like for them? I can't imagine being a teacher that has kids older that they just found out they're going to be home. What are they going to do? It's a concern. And I have to agree with Brian Sullivan about the whole bus situation. I think they need to figure it out. There's a lot of parents that have been waiting a long time, and I feel like DY is kind of always the last to find out what's going on, and maybe I'm wrong in that, but I appreciate everything that you're doing, but I want to know more. Thank you.
Hello, this is Vita Morris again. I'm on the telephone. I'm not in the Zoom system.
Vita, hang on, I'll get to you. Ms. Chamberlain.
Okay.
Yeah, hi. I'm a parent of two little girls that go to ME Small, and I call all the time and I talk to the principal, or I email, or to their teachers from last year, and they give me as much information as they can, and it's wonderful. And I don't know how we would have gotten through last year, the end of the school year and the summer, without these teachers, because they are amazing. These teachers, I applaud them. They are amazing, but I would like to have more information, because the school doesn't know anything, and I don't know who to go to get this information of, again, who's going to be the teachers for the girls, or how is their day going to look, or what's going to happen when winter comes and the windows need to be closed and we can't have school, have some of the classrooms outside in the just instead of being inside the classroom. And I understand the HVAC thing was all, it was an inspection, there was all that. I understand that the buses it's a mess. I understand it's a difficult times, challenging times, but who are we supposed to get this information from? Because listening to the school committee tonight, it sounds still very unclear on how certain things are going to be handled. I mean, my oldest daughter has some sensory issues, and if she's going to be sitting outside on the grass, that's going to be very challenging. For her to be sitting outside eating, even at a picnic table, is going to be a major challenge for her. So, I mean, how are those things going to be addressed? How are, the kids with special needs that aren't going to be really able to cope with this? What help is there for them? What help is there for the teachers? Those are the things that I want to know, that I really have not heard any kind of answer for.
Okay, thank you. Vida?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I just, yeah, as far as this, the bus situation goes, I have spoken on this on previous occasions, and this would have been the best time to do this. Stop picking up the students at their driveways and make the parents take them out to the major streets. There, in my development, we suddenly have a number of young families, and it's all turning corners. I mean, at every few steps practically, and that's such a waste of time. The parents have to take some responsibility and take the children out to West Yarmouth Road, to Union Street, or to White Rock. In the case of my development, and I don't know. I can't tell you how much time would have been saved. Now, I don't know whether I remember correctly or not, but I thought at the beginning of this discussion on reopening, there was a comment made that quite a few parents had indicated that they would want to drive their children to school themselves, which I think is a wonderful cooperation under these circumstances. And if that could have been encouraged, I think it would have been very helpful, it seems to me. Now, do I understand correctly that the Wixon and Matakees school children are not going to be, it's open, totally open for them as it was from the very beginning, and suddenly there's a change, and they're doing some kind of a hybrid thing? I mean, I think that's a major change if that's the case, because the discussion from the beginning was always K through 7th grade. If the schools are open and the parents have the right to choose, whether their children are coming to school or not, or whether this is just the bus-based thing. And I do have a question which is somewhat related, but tangential. I'm curious, are the windows in the new building, will you be able to open windows in the new building? Hello?
Ms. Morris, is that the end of your comments?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. We had set aside 15 minutes for public comment tonight, so that concludes public comment. That doesn't mean you can't email or call if you have questions or concerns. So that's it for tonight. So,
Chair.
yes, Joe.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Is there a second?
All. Aye. Meeting adjourned.